again, party people now taste that. This is the 808 bass test. Everybody be a freak in the room. Now pump up the bass with the 808 boom. Back once again, party people now taste that. This is the 808 bass test. Everybody be a freak in the room. Now pump up the bass with the 808 boom. 808 boom. 808 boom. 808 boom. 808 boom. 808. This is the 808 bass test.
What is good, guys? Welcome back. Welcome back. We're not back 100%. I'll go with 90 this evening because we've still got the issues with Codcaster, but we have a work around it. Once again, I'm joined by Mr. Pablo, the man who was previously just fuming his head off, but you're all good now, Pabs, and ready to go for some card.
Yeah, poor old Chafin did get to wear the more kind of like impatient side to my demeanour, which is not really great when you come to kind of put one of these bad boys back together. But yeah, I'm all good now, and I'm looking forward to casting some Call of Duty after what has been an awesome weekend of Call of Duty, mate. And it's good to get back into the ACCL as well, so that should be sweet. But yeah, I just want to get stuck in, mate. I just want to put the bad vibes behind me and just let's get ourselves thrown into some crazy COD with the world's most unpredictable codcaster.
yeah. So guys, there might be issues this evening in terms of player names not showing up, but after me and Pablo were working on the Challenger stream yesterday, everything, touch wood, I'm going to jinx it now, but I'm going to go for it. I didn't have any scans yesterday when I was doing the observing, so I'm fingers crossed praying that we don't get that this evening. We will still have issues of potential player names not being there, but in terms of like the RAF lads, for example, you know them well, Pablo, I know them well, so in terms of a core four, we know kind of what players we're working with, so if one's missing, we know who's the odd one out, who's not on the leaderboards. Obviously Trident, Poseidon, not really a team that we're too familiar with, but all the same, I suppose we can kind of reference off of what we know from the RAF lads in that they are a very, very good team, aren't they, and not to be underestimated by any means.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Terry Oggs and Raiden in particular are two that are reasonably familiar to me and will be 100% familiar to you. I think RAF were one of the first teams I cast back in March against ESports Wales, I think it was. But yeah, just obviously a fun but really good outfit, and they're just awesome four lads as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know anything about Trident, Poseidon. Don't recognise any of the names. Maybe Poro rings a bell.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
I think I've casted Poro before as well.
Yeah, I think Poro maybe is the only one that rings a bell. So interesting to see how these shape up. Is this an ACCL Division 3 matchup?
Yes, yeah, Div
So
3 this
when
one.
you consider the 7 divisions, this should be a tasty like mid division, or I don't know how you would describe it, mid league kind of encounter. So I'm expecting to see some good Call of Duty this evening, mate.
Yeah, I think it's a level of COD where you'd still expect the fundamentals of the game to be there between these guys, and obviously the gun skill as well. When we reference the RAF lads, they are all very, very good players. I know Jay, or he's now known as a Fluffy Hippo. He was previously known as Unknown JWG. He's a very, very good Warzone player. Obviously Terry as well, very solid. Raiden, a very good in-game leader, very calm and composed. Callie as well, naturally good at the game. So I've seen what they're like on Warzone as well, so I know how good they are on this engine for Call of Duty, so it wouldn't surprise me at all if they are very, very good at this Call of Duty as well. So I don't want to say that Div 3 is potentially looking like I would expect RAF to be at the top, but to be honest, knowing what they're like, I would be very, very surprised if they're at least not fighting for that top spot in this division at least.
Yeah, I think as far as I remember from watching quite a few of your casts, these are kind of a very capable S&D side. I do remember they've got a couple of players that can go off. in S&D, so I expect them to kind of dominate that. Hard
Yeah.
point again, though, is just in terms of respawn, I'm not sure if memory's going to serve me any good, but again, I just expect them, if they're enjoying Warzone and enjoying the game engine, then they're certainly going to be enjoying the time to kill, and they're going to be, obviously, just any Call of Duty player at this level you would expect to be, but a foursome that have played together, you would expect them to get trades and do some of the more consistent things that you sometimes don't see in the lower divisions. So yeah, this should be a really an interesting encounter, just to see on the one side just how they shape up in this as their first competitive game that we'll have seen them play in, and then obviously Trident and Poseidon, just to see how they perform at all.
Yeah.
So it's that initial kind of like impression, that benchmark that we can set going forward, that if we come across them again, we kind of have an idea what they're about. So yeah, this is a bit of an enigma, but it should be interesting.
Yeah, and you flagged up the search and destroy ability of RAF when I casted them over Cold War multiple times. Search and destroy is almost their staple game mode that you almost expect them to win. So if they come out of the gates flying, winning a hard point, you do feel potentially for the other team it's a case of, right, well, you're going to have to pull your finger out now, because search and destroy definitely seems their bread and butter from the times that I've casted them anyways.
Yeah, 100%, and that is obviously the way this shapes up, that if RAF do get a foothold in the game early on, so if they do take the first map and then we're rocking into an S&D, and the S&Ds in this, a lot of the really awful maps tend to get vetoed, so we're seeing a lot of the same S&Ds over and over again. I expect they're still going to be amazing at them, so if they go 1-0 up on that first hard point, I think Poseidon are going to put, potentially be in a very tricky position, because going into that map 2 S&D, it's just going to be awkward for them. If they can weather the storm and then maybe bounce back in the back-to-back respawns of the 2 hard points, which is obviously control, even though control's out, it's just unplayable. So we've got this wild kind of like consistency testing back-to-back hard points, which is going to be a big test, and I think probably more for Poseidon than it is going to be for RAF. But I mean, I'm not really staking a flag just yet. Let's get through that map one first, Major.
Yeah, it's always an issue where we're happy to take splinters up the backside for the time being, because we've been proven wrong multiple times, obviously. Because I know the RAF lads well, I will stick my flag on their side. It's through favouritism. I'll get on with the guys. I won't lie to you, and they're good players. But I will happily sit back and confirm if a team is better than them. So it's going to be interesting to see how Trident come up against them. I know the RAF lads have got their following as well. Mr. Allen in the chat, he's always here giving them the love. The new coach of RAF. So they've got a lot of talent to put forward. And you mentioned the maps as well. We've got obviously that double hard point, but we've got a bit more of a spread in terms of facing for the maps, haven't we? We've got Bocage map 1, Tuscan map 2, but then we've got Berlin, Tuscan, and Demiance. So if it does go 3, 4, 5, you've got those slower game modes, haven't you? Or slower maps, sorry, should I say?
Yeah, if anything, I think that 1, 2, 3 is probably like the perfect 1, 2, 3 right now. That you don't think you're going to get much of a better kind of like beginning to a competitive match. Bocage hard points just crazy fast, gets everyone warmed up. No one can complain that they're not ready by map 2. Tuscan S&D just ramps the size of the map up a little bit, but then obviously it's a slower game mode, but it's just maybe geographically tight enough to just maintain a bit of pace, and then we go into that Berlin hard point, which is then everyone's firing all cylinders. Gun skills should not be an issue by then, and now it comes down to which team actually plays the game better. So it's a really interesting 1, 2, 3 for me. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how these two teams shape up coming out of that 1, 2, 3. Cheers, Aid.
Yeah,
just sneaked avocado and egg on toast that my wife just made. That made fun despite me shouting at her.
Yeah, so guys, we are now good to go here, and apologies. So you will see players number 3 and number 8 unfortunately will not be visible for us on this hard point, but we'll crack on anyway. Tableau, we can talk till the cows come home, can't we? So I'm sure we won't have an issue anyway for gameplay, especially with these two.
Not a problem at all. It does look like we've lost Fluffy Hippo, so if you are looking out for that extra blue player on the RAF side, it is going to be Fluffy Hippo. And with the other side, I do think it's going to be Rusty Nuts that we're going to
Yeah.
be losing. I am guessing that, though,
Arguably
based
the
on
best name of the lot.
yeah, absolutely. We're missing the hippo, we're missing the nuts, and already it does look like it is RAF Esports who are just getting a bit of a foothold, and it does look like the prep for P2 as well, which is what you would expect from these boys. But yeah, big battle on P1. Does look like they've lost that, as we do see trades go out between Poro and Terry Yogurt.
Yeah, so
What an
Mr.
awesome
Nooney
name.
with his infamous name. I'm sure anyone who's played League play in Cold War probably would have come across Nooney with his name and remember. But Poro actually manages to grab a double, so it's a little bit better there from Trident Poseidon. They did manage to drop a few lives right off the rip. You can see where Callie is all the way out in the back, and nice work there by Jake. Manages to take down one. JM is going to manage to grab another. So although they're fighting from the backside of it, it looks as though now they seem to be in a good position to grab a solid amount of time here on the P2, Pablo, which you tend to see can be one of the more money hills, especially on Bocage.
Yeah, and usually it's the team that does manage to get that kind of like wrap around the back towards Tin that does well, but they got pushed out, so it's a great play by Trident Poseidon to be able to push RAF off that hill. Great work from Jake Als, just pushing through Tin and getting 2 kills, and that's really set them up with this almost a 30-second lead. But I don't think the boys from RAF, I think they're just getting warmed up, so I think you're going to see a big pushback, but it does look like they're already thinking about that lower grannies. But again, look at Jake Als doing all the work, 7 and 6, and he's already starting to fight in that new hill.
Yeah, that's a really good transition there from Trident Poseidon. They got a big chunk of hill on that. They're now leading by about 40. You flagged up Jake as well, a player that we're not really too familiar with, but he's already looking to be a bit of a menace as Raiden manages to fly around the corner to at least take him down for the time being. Raiden manages to grab a double, so it's getting a little bit messy in and around the hill. Terry, a player that we're used to seeing, Pablo, put up big numbers, kind of having a quiet game at the moment, but you do fear potentially if he starts to get up to speed, this will probably be a lot closer than it currently is, at least for the time being.
Yeah, absolutely. We're just waiting for him to warm up at the minute. It does look like Raiden's doing a lot of the heavy carrying, 11 and 8 with 20 seconds. But again, just Trident Poseidon doing a really good job of getting that lion's share of that time and then looking already to kind of wrap towards this quite awkward barn hill. But yeah, I expect if Teddy does pop off, he's going to have to do it soon because, let's be honest, it's just looking like Jake's doing really well. And JML with 26 seconds is also doing kind of good as well. But I don't know. I just think RAF Esports are just going to start warming up and we might see a slightly different side over the next maybe 2 hills.
Yeah, and Terry is going to manage to grab one before he falls, but that's a clean wipe there, pretty much, from the boys of Trident Poseidon. So nice work there as Poro manages to cut down, I believe, potentially 3. I'm not sure if that was a bug from the Codcaster or not, but good work there as the kill feed lights up yellow in favour of Trident Poseidon. But in goes Mr. Yogurt, manages to take down 1. He is looking for some potential others. And when we speak about this map, Pablo, you don't want to say that kills tend to favour teams winning or losing, but on a close engagement map that you tend to see with Bocage, the kills do go a long way on this map, don't they? Just because of the sheer pace of it and how quickly players spawn back up. It's usually the team that tends to put up the big numbers tends to run away a little bit with it.
I think the key strategy here is not just obviously getting into the hill first, and it's getting your players that aren't going to be on that hill time out as well, so that they're providing that buffer, so that the players that they do kill just cannot get close to the hill, and allows you to capture that extra 20 or 30 seconds that maybe if a few more players sat in probably wouldn't be able to get. But as we're seeing right now, just watch our player there, number 6, Terry, just around the back, just looking to pick out those players who are causing trouble, and he's going to just pop round and he's going to see if he can drop Poro now. I do think Poro's 3-piece was actually a 2-piece earlier on. It does look like it was a bug because he was only on 5 and 6 after that 3-piece, and I think he already had 4 kills. So a bit of a weird one with the Codcaster, but again, great work from Trident Poseidon, who've just making this a very competitive game. We did say this going into the match that we didn't know what to expect, but as it's a Div 3 game, we did expect it to be highly competitive, and this has been an awesome showing so far.
Yeah, there's not much separating these guys at the moment. Callie is going to manage to grab a double. Terry manages to take down 1 as well himself, and he manages to get a second as well. Does Mr. Yogs, and he started off a little bit slower. I believe 6 and 13 at one point, but he's now 13 and 15, so he's starting to get a little bit up to speed now, and you feel that he might potentially be a bit of an X-factor here as RAF managed to take a little bit more of a lead. 20 points to the good as we go over towards P1. Poro, another couple of kills coming through from him. Obviously, we can't see that third player. Mr. Rusty Nuts might be putting up a good show as well, and likewise might be, I believe, is Mr. Fluffy Hippo on the side of RAF. So we'll just have to wait and see potentially how this one unfolds. But 30 points roughly between them now as RAF look to try and hold here on the P1. Jake going to try and work his way in towards the hill. Poro is going to make light work of Raiden. So it looks as though Terry's actually managed to work his way around the back. So prioritising those P2 spawns over the P1 for the time being, Pablo, is usually what we tend to see a lot of teams do, because that P1 can get really messy at times.
Yeah, I think obviously they want to kind of control back barn and want to control tin to make sure they don't get flanked and pushed out, because P1 will just be a contest hill for the large proportion of the time on almost every rotation as well. And obviously controlling as much as possible the back portion of that barn area is going to allow you to then, you know, as we've discussed earlier, that P2's a money hill. You know, you've got a lot of lines of sight. You can cover it basically from 2 angles. And it can be like very lucrative. I mean, right now, Trident Poseidon are doing everything they can. I feel like they're slightly outslaying, but they're just not turning that into points, which is it's a weird situation for Bacage. But again, just big kills going down, and we're going to see Trident Poseidon just get control of that P2 hill. But we are going to see Terry Yoggett, though, he's in and around the back, so he's causing mischief, and that's exactly what RAF want to see out of the young man. He's 17 to 21 right now, but if he starts to warm up, I think there's still plenty of time in this match for the boys from RAF to turn things around.
Yeah, and I think the one that we saw actually in Barn, Pablo, was, I think it was Jay or Fluffy Hippo, the beauty of the Codcaster. She's currently coming back to bite. But yeah, it's still a really close game at the moment. Not much separating these two for the moment. It doesn't seem to be a huge swing in terms of score. It's back and forth at the moment between these two as Callie's managed to get round the back here. Does spot another one. Tries to get the old slide cancel going on that occasion. Isn't going to be able to. And Raiden now in the hill, but he's got the help of Mr. Yogs himself backing him up. So Terry, in he goes, and his teammates managed to take down a couple, but there's still players and still yellow arrows out the back here for Trident Poseidon. It looks as though Callie, though, again trying to work all the way around the back like he did prior. And with the automaton in hand, I think he's going to get taken down there. Yeah, he did run out of bullets, unfortunately, with that only 25 magazine gun. But Terry, another couple of kills coming through from him, and RAF starting to get a little bit of steam potentially here. But Trident Poseidon, although they're getting slain out in terms of the back of their spawn, it just goes to show, Pablo, how important those spawns are, because there's still nothing separating these two regardless.
Yeah, absolutely. What are we at? 8 points. JM doing an absolutely massive job, but you see the kill feed go almost entirely RAF's way, and this could be the swing in the game. I mean, it has been kind of RAF's all the way, but you just felt like Trident Poseidon were getting a foothold. But this does look like it's starting to come around to the RAF boys now. But yeah, that huge hold in Grannies, and you could see getting that, you know, flooding that back area just allowed them to control the spawns. But the other thing that it really did, and we talked about this the other day, was that conga line of like people just flooding the hill one by one in kind of like kill feeding. And again, we mentioned this before, Major, the kill feed tends to just go one way or the other on this barn hill. It's insane.
Yeah, and Trident Poseidon, although they're not going to have the preferred spawns, they've done a good start, at least for now. But I think that was Jay just coming through and carving down a couple of the players there. Although it says Mr. Terry Yoga, it wasn't him on that occasion, but that one was. Terry manages to take down one. And now this is a good opportunity for RAF to try and push this lead out a little bit further. As I believe Jay was on a streak there. I think he got taken down eventually, though. So Mr. Fluffy Hippo, the name that you cannot see, did go on a bit of a tear, but he did get taken down eventually. But RAF, they still only lead by 20 points. Only a few seconds remaining of the scrap time. But it's going to be Poseidon on the rotation. And we haven't seen a huge amount of a team holding that rotation and then holding the waves. I suppose Bocage, one of those maps where, because of the pace of the game and how close people can spawn and get over towards the hill, it can be so difficult at times to hold the multiple waves of players that you need to, in comparison to like a Berlin, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the only two hills that you really see a kind of like strong hold without being highly competitive is usually bottom Grannies, and then Barn. We do see teams, especially if they're able to push out, can usually hold for at least 35-40 seconds. The rest of the time, as you can see right now, people just challenging off hill. It's quite messy. This is probably one of the ones that is a great indicator of just how wild the spawns are on Bocage. Just watch them change every single time, because it's such a weirdly placed hill, so it's so difficult to predict spawns, which makes it even more difficult to hold the hill, because you just don't know where the enemy are coming from. And obviously there's elevated positions, there's long lines of sight, so this hill's really got everything except for the ability to hold it.
So Mr. Terry manages to grab another one. Him and Jake are absolutely flying in terms of engagements at the moment, both over 60. now each, and we go back over towards the P1. So with only 45 seconds worth of actual in-game time, that timer is starting to drop down little by little. So teams obviously going to be looking to try and get in that hill and potentially drain that timer out, but there is nothing separating these two at the moment. There's another couple of kills come through from Mr. Terry Yogurt as he manages to grab another couple, and those yellow arrows are starting to spawn a little bit further away. They've now got to get their way over towards the hill. RAF, this is a really good opportunity for them now to start to push this lead out. Mr. JM is going to try and work his way in towards the hill, and he does manage to take down Terry, but now the streaks are coming through. They're not going to land with anyone. I think they were looking for Callie just hiding in the barn. You can see where RAF are spawning now. They're not spawning directly out the back, so Callie's going to have to go huge in the back here. Manages to take down one. He's now on a 5 streak, and his teammates doing the work around him at the moment as RAF are looking to try and cement this map 1 and get it over and done with.
Absolutely crazy plays. I absolutely fell for Terry Yogurt before, though. He was set up, he was ready to take down 2 players, missed 1 shot, and then got punished for it. And the guys from Trident and Poseidon just able to get back onto that P1 and just make this a hell of a game. This is going to be a crazy ending with 30 seconds remaining on the clock. We've saw Terry Yogurt just go positive with 2 massive kills that almost put some daylight between them. But right now, this has become a barrage almost, an embittered fight over towards this kind of like crazy field kill. So 29 seconds major. It's looking good for RAF Esports, and largely in part to the work.
Callie, well, he's going to put a glide bomb. I believe the spawn protection on those players is going to be what keeps them alive, and Terry only able to take down 1. So RAF, they are leading by, I believe, what is the most amount of points we've seen between these two at the moment, as they're only 20 points away now from taking map number 1. Jake, we saw it earlier, he got a big kill to at least secure his team the spawns to help with that scrap time, but RAF, they are going to have the rotation over towards New, and it is just streaks galore as Terry is going to look to try and land one in the back pocket of Poro, but again, it's not going to grab the kill. Mr. Poro just taking it like an absolute champion, means that he's not going to drop, but he will get taken down eventually. RAF, they only need 10 more points now, and another few kills means that they are going to be struggling here. Trident to at least get in the hill. Jake, the man who's been proving himself to us especially, has managed to grab another kill, but with only 5 seconds left, his team need to try and at least get in, as Raiden manages to get taken down. Callie's still involved though, so they're not down, at least for now. With 4 seconds left, you feel that RAF, with these couple of kills starting to come through in the trades, this could potentially be game here as 1 falls, 2 falls, and RAF do manage to get the game finished.
Yeah, Raiden going huge at the end there to get those 2 kills. That pushes RAF over the line. It was a crazy game from start to finish. In fact, the last 2 hills were the most amount of points that we saw, and largely in part, the win really comes down to the likes of Callie and the likes of Terry Yogurt just heating up so much towards that last rotation, that 3rd rotation. Just saw Terry go absolutely huge, but you've got to feel for a Jake Halls who dropped a 40, I think, maybe, in that game. But what an entertaining game, and so tight as well right up until the end.
Yeah, it wasn't really until we saw that no man's land hill that was when RAF started to pull away, really. Throughout the game, it was neck and neck, pretty much all map. There was maybe an occasional stint where RAF or Trident would go 20 points clear, and then it would just instantly be undercut, and then we were back to an even game. So if this series is anything like that, map 1 is going to be, bar the end of it, we could be looking at a potential game 5 here.
Yeah, and I think it might be down to Bacage, entirely, like its geography and how the hills work. It's such an odd map when you consider that P1 is such a heavily contested one. It literally comes down to whoever gets that rotation. P2 can be like a huge hill if you can control it, and that's usually a sign that a team's really good, is the team that controls that. And then we see that Granny and that Barn one. The teams that tend to get the spawns for that tend to hold them regardless of the quality. And then we see, obviously, that wild, the kind of dockside hill, which is just weird. The trench hill is just weird. There's no way around it. It's so odd. There's so much elevation. There's so many ways to get picked off. The players spawn in like 6 or 7 locations as they contest in the hill. It's such an odd map, but hopefully now, as we get this little Tuscan Bill in Tuscan Run, we'll see a little bit more kind of settled strategic Call of Duty.
Yeah, and just want to quickly shout out the Big Nast and Mr. Kez, Cheerios and Milk. What a name. What a man. He's been grinding it out. Thank you very much for the subs, guys. Much appreciated from myself.
Did Kez get T64 this weekend?
I'm not sure how he actually got on, Kez.
I think he did,
Ask us in chat. Oh, sorry, tell us in chat. How did you get on? How did the boys get on? But yeah, I think they're having a tweaks to the roster, which breaks my heart. I wanted to see those boys stay as a 4 and fry, but I think it's maybe some temporary tweaks. I don't know. Regardless, we see quite a lot of changes to teams, but actually.
T32, let's go.
T32, that's decent. But as a good little segue. Oh no, have you got preemptively shot?
I'm so confused. I'm so confused. But GG's to Aroma, Kelsa Genesis, and CD will take T32 in our first 2K as a team.
Okay, that's all right. But actually, segueing from obviously teams that change a lot to teams that don't. The RAF lads are consistent 4. You'd expect them to be a consistent 4 throughout the year. And one thing that we tend to drill in quite a lot is that the teams that stay together long term, especially towards the end of Call of Duty, definitely seem to have not an advantage, but a better understanding of how each other play, rather than just constantly moving rosters, constantly tweaking, and like having to pretty much learn.
Don't break up the band, man. That's it. You just don't break up the band. You find the right members. We've seen it with the likes of JMW and JT as almost a duo kind of. I know we used to kind of associate them with Russell and that, but they're a duo and they stay together for a reason. I think they just appreciate each other's gameplay. They know how good they are, and then they find players at their level. It is correct though that you tend to see, if you get that right chemistry and that right combination of players, then it's no point breaking up. People claim to be able to take losses, and then you see them break up within 2 or 3 weeks. It's crazy. You put that time and effort in, the chemistry will build, and you will be able to understand what each other's roles are. It's always good to have a strong in-game leader as well, so that's another shout, I suppose, as well. But the RAF lads, just, I mean, you consider that they, when did we start casting? Maybe March last year. You were a little bit
end
earlier.
of March, beginning of April, I think.
And they've been that team almost, consistently from potentially earlier than that. Because I think I came into the league, whatever league I was casting, partway through. So RAF boys have stuck together quite consistently. So it's not surprising to see them do well. Yeah, and
another thing though to mention, credit where it's due, Trident Poseidon, they look like a solid team. I say RAF and no mugs when it comes to Call of Duty. So to push them right towards the end and literally just fall at the last hurdle of that map 1. You mentioned like Jake had a very, very good game. He's looking to be quite a good player as well. So they're by no means a pushover in terms of a roster.
Yeah, and not just big on the kills. Jake just seemed to have really good game sense as well. He was very aware of the flank from Terry coming around. It might not have been Terry, actually. It might have been Fluffy. And Fluffy. He had good game sense. He probably realised that there was only a handful of people pushing from the front, so he's gone through tin and got 2 pretty easy kills on the flank. So yeah, he appears to understand the game quite well, and it'll just be interesting now to see how these guys approach this S&D. We've got a feel for how they play hardpoint. They're very similar to RAF in terms of quality. Now this is going to be the test, because we know the RAF boys are a very solid S&D side.
Yeah, and we have been blessed in some ways. We've only got 1 issue in terms of the Codcaster for this map, so map number 2 underway now. RAF, we've flagged it up before, haven't we, Pablo? A very, very strong S&D based team. I think it's not really S&D based, but it's definitely been their fallback, especially in series I've casted. Whenever it's gone to a game 5, I've almost joked with the lads about it in terms of that has been their lean-to if a series does look as though it's on the ropes, and they always seem to come through as Raiden manages to grab a couple of kills, and it looks as though it is now going to be Rusty, the last man alive. So already looking like a pretty bread and butter round from the RAF lads, at least, with Rusty all on his lonesome now.
Yeah, absolutely, and a lot of patience, goes a long way for the RAF boys. They're not the kind of team that are just going to push and push and push. They want their picks, they want to get control, and they want to get bombed down. They play it the way S&D should be played, and it's been a huge round so far. Again, Colcaster, it's been not too bad this round. This is what we want to see, but yeah, it does look like the boys from RAF are going to take this and go 1-0.
Yeah, so a decent round there from the RAF boys. Didn't drop a life, and Trident just opting to let that go down and not give them any more potential lives. And when we saw Search and Destroy yesterday, especially on this map, Pablo, for challengers, although teams have pace, I think we've mentioned it before, the pacing of Vanguard in Search and Destroy is very, very good. You can't just run aimlessly like you can with a lot of the hardpoint maps. It is definitely something. I mean, Search and Destroy in general has always been a game mode that you can't just like absolutely wing it and throw yourself forward. But with this game, with this time to kill, it's definitely one where teams and players have to take care, don't they? They can't just throw away their lives meaninglessly.
Yeah, I mean, if you were to literally take a couple of the games from yesterday and break them down by percentages, you know the big plays that people talk about are the ones that happen 2-3% of the time. The percentages, the plays that win are the 97% plays, and they're the ones that are peaking, that are looking over headies, that are doing this kind of work Poro's doing now. He gets dropped because he comes to face with Cali, who's got an awesome shot on him. But yeah, this is the percentage plays, the careful kind of S&D strats that are going to see you through the round. And one thing I would say about the RAF boys is that we see a lot of them. A lot of the times they win 3-2, so they've got good consistency. So one thing Trident are going to need to be considerate of is that even if they were able to bring a couple of rounds back, the boys from RAF do not let up.
Yeah, and they almost let that one slip there, Trident. Rusty just coming through. I don't know if they would have had enough time to defuse the bomb, but we saw another glimpse there of what RAF can do in Search. A 4v2 instantly became a 2v2 and then a 1v2 in very short space of time. Raiden currently 3-1 at the moment, and it looks as though RAF, although they take that first round, that lead will now be removed. Rusty grabbing 3 kills in that round, so good work there from him. We'll actually keep an eye on him.
Yeah.
Potentially, I know it looks as though he's not going to come across anyone for the time being, but RAF again, they're looking to get this bomb down quick, and it's not an easy site to get control of when that bomb goes down.
Yeah, absolutely. You can already see the brain ticking over from Poseidon as they try and figure out how they're going to get back to this site. And we can see right there, Fluffy Hippo is just going to be waiting for that push through. And it's, are we going to see whether Trident actually check the corners now? This would be super interesting. Nope. Again, as your point proven before, this is definitely not a game mode, and it's particularly not a game when we talk about Vanguard where you can just run out like that. You do need to be checking all your corners, and Rusty is tagged up right now as the sole survivor in what has been an onslaught in this round, mate.
Yeah, so it looks as though we're going to see another attacking round win here. So every single team, or I say every single team, we've got 2. Both teams have managed to take their attacking rounds as RAF managed to grab another one there. So they will now regain that lead and go 2-1 up here. And we've only got 2 search and destroys in this one, Paz. We've got that Berlin, that Tuscan hard point, and you definitely feel that if RAF do take this second map, it's going to be very, very difficult, isn't it, for the Trident lads to come back? Not impossible by any means, but it's going to be very, very difficult if RAF start getting some momentum going.
Yeah, especially when you know already that Terry and Raiden and Callie are firing on all cylinders. Obviously, we didn't really get to see the stats for Fluffy, but I'm sure he did very well. But yeah, you know for a fact that they are fired up and they are warmed up, more importantly, and that if they do fall, Trident do fall in this S&D, that, you know, the boys from the RAF are going to be able to take Berlin or Tuscan. I would probably say either, to be perfectly honest. But again, you just don't know going into this. We don't know the Poseidon boys, and we saw how good that Jake was on that respawn mode. So maybe just not too strong right now in S&D. It is only early in the season, so yeah, it could be just one of them kind of like, you know, weird moments where they just need a bit more practice, but they might be handy on Berlin hardpoint. We just don't know. But right now, it does look like the RAF boys were in control, but it's big work for Fluffy Hippo right now.
Yeah, so still a 2v2. He does have, I believe, Raiden in the corner. Yeah, so Sam is actually going to manage to grab Jake. So now it is Poro, last man up for Trident. He has got the bomb, I believe. We do have a bomb glitch as well in Codcaster, which is a bit of a pain sometimes. But he does have the bomb, but he's only got 24 seconds left to work with. And those blue arrows, they are just staring at that A-bomb site. And I think he might have been spotted. Yeah, he has definitely now been. And Jay will clear up the kill. So RAF going to take another round, 2 rounds to the good now. And they've got to be careful, Trident, not to let this one start to get away with them, because as soon as that round advantage starts to go to 3 and then potentially to 4, it's like you're right on the precipice of going 2-0 down in the series, which is not what you're going to want to see.
Yeah, and the other thing to consider as well is that when you go kind of like 2 behind, you start to play slightly differently. So, you know, whether we see Trident start to rush a little bit more, maybe the players are talking about routes they'd rather take rather than the kind of teamwork they might want to employ now. I just think they just need to stay strong and, you know, maintain the game that they've been playing, just be more accurate. And you can see already they're just going to get picked off. As we talked about before, Fluffy just with a brilliant example there. You know, play your heady, watch your corner, and get your pick. And they're 2 to the good. And as I say that,
That was...
Jake gets an awesome grenade.
Yeah, that was coordination at its finest there from Trident. There was 2 of the lads there that just launched nades at Sam. It looks as though Fluffy Hippo or Jay is just going to be watching that spawn all the way round. So it's a really, really split approach here from both teams. You can see Callie just lurking in the middle of the map, Rusty all the way over the other side, over towards the B side. And one of the things that you do tend to flag up, especially at like the higher levels of COD, is there is rarely an instant, oh, there you go, we're going to see it now, of when you have like these two-player situations, you rarely see players play separately. It's usually they play right up against each other.
Yeah, in Cold War, it used to be a very trade-heavy game, so you would see players tend to play together. But this variant of Call of Duty, and then we just see Jake get an awesome kill over to Raiden as well. This variant of Call of Duty, we do tend to see players kind of split up a little bit just to peek or get information. But it does look like this is probably the more sensible way to go. But that's an awesome kill from Fluffy Hippo to make this a 1v1 with 9 seconds. A lot of work for him to do, and he's spinning around trying to get any information he can. And I do think this is going to be a Trident round. So playing their game, as you said, that coordination earlier on really paid off for the Poseidon boys there.
Yeah, and so Trident, that's a much needed round there for them. And a big shout out to Mr. Moo gifting the sub to Stumpy. Thank you very much, brother, as we go in towards our next round. So that deficit has now been reduced back down to 1 round. Unfortunately, their Fluffy Hippo not able to come out with the win on that occasion, but he is now on a 6 streak, so he has a lot to work with here, and especially over towards that A site, Pablo, if, say, RAF were to get the bomb down, that glide bomb can definitely be of use to them.
Yeah, 100%. It's a very open map. Obviously, both bomb sites are very open. It's going to make this very difficult for the Poseidon boys. They're going to have to have one mind on the fact that they're probably going to lose a player or two to that glide bomb, and it really does put RAF in the driving seat. And right now, Raiden being an absolute nuisance to them, but they're able to trade out as Raiden drops Poro and Jake again. I accused him before of not being much of an S&D player, and we can't really see his stats, but I've got a good feeling that he's doing okay and keeping his team, within touching distance of the RAF boys. But this is going to be a big moment for them because they definitely don't want to go 4-2 behind.
Yeah, and there was another kill on that occasion, and I don't believe it was Raiden. I think it was Callie, because although his name is on there, it is glitched, so we can't actually see him in terms of his name and in-game. So he will manage to grab another kill. Rusty still currently 4-0. So he hasn't actually dropped. I'm not sure if that's a bug, but if it's not, then fair enough. He's managed to keep going here, but he is now going to leave Jake all alone. And Jake's going to have to try and make something work here. He's trapped up top. You see Terry spots him, and I think Terry was the one who managed to get the kill in the end. So RAF, they managed to reinstate that 2-round advantage, and now only 2 rounds away from potentially going 2-0 up in the series. And I never think I've said the number 2 more than that in one go.
I don't know what player Terry dropped, but he did go for the ego chow, which was probably a mistake. Just to re-challenge him with that AR was probably a bad move. But yeah, this just put RAF in the driving seat quite considerably. Fluffy just going 7-2, which is an awesome performance. But again, I mean, it's nice to have seen Trident just play some strategies that have actually worked and got them a couple of rounds on the board. But they just need to continue employing that, playing their angles, just to give themselves that opportunity to stay within touching distance of the RAF lads. But right now, Terry, even though he's on a 2-4, those 2 kills were the round winning kills from the previous game, so important kills nonetheless, and a good time to get involved. But we can see Rusty now just trying to play a route and just play a little bit more pace, and as we said before, that's what happens if you just rush out. You're going to get dropped.
Yeah, and the RAF lads are really making them pay in this round. Nobody has dropped, and it is now going to be Poro, the last man up. He is going to manage to take down Callie, and Mr. Yogg's, as sufficient as always with the RAF lads, is just going to be there, make the trade, and now RAF really, as you mentioned, Pablo, in the driving seat for this search and destroy. They're very patient in their attacking rounds and in their defensive rounds, to be fair. They're not one team to be forced into making a move, and it's definitely showing for them here.
Yeah, I think what I like about them is that they get a kill and then check whether there's space. Then they go and they kind of like they go and live in that space, but they stay within touching distance of each other. So they've consistently got someone there to back them up. They know exactly what room they've got to maneuver in. So it's these little things that people may not think are going to win a match, but it's that little bit of communication, that little bit of staying within touching distance almost, but always kind of like when not just getting the kill, but controlling the area that player was in. And we see Teddy doing just that front church as he does look to take control, but Rusty with a pretty important kill, dropping Teddy there. But yeah, this is exactly what you want to see if you're a Poseidon fan, is Rusty going off and maybe potentially bringing this, because 5-3 just feels different.
Yeah, and now Rusty is going to try and work his way up. That bomb did drop in an awkward spot, and I don't think they know that Callie is tucked away in this corner here, so Rusty's surely going to get shot in the back any second. These two playing back-to-back. You do expect the bomb to be planted shortly, though, with only 40 seconds left. You can see Jay is slowly working his way up. Poro knows where he is. He is going to group up, and surely someone is going to see Rusty here. Finally, they're going to drop him. So now it is all on Poro. He will fall, and RAF with a very, very convincing search and destroy map there, Pablo. 6-2, and now 2-0 up.
Yeah, this is what we feared. I mean, we expected it from the outset, and it's obviously when we start a match, we don't want to plant a flag that heavily anywhere. We especially don't want to do it when we don't know the other team. But obviously, understanding how good RAF are, this is pretty much what we expected. Their S&D is solid. Like as we spoke about earlier on, they're a very strategic team. They shoot very straight and they're very capable. They're very cautious, I would say, as well. So that does lend, especially in this game, in this particular variant of Call of Duty, it does lend itself to dropping players who are a little bit more careless in how they approach and don't play the lives well. So another really solid performance. Again, don't know what to expect going into this Berlin, no major, because it's a totally this is the most different out of all the maps in terms of its size and complexity.
Yeah, and in terms of balance as well, I would say it's one where it's not favourable to a team that is just aggression or a team that is just rotation. Rotations definitely play a bigger part in Berlin, and map 3 now, so it'll be another hard point as you mentioned. So, to be honest, when I know the kind of players that they've got on the RAF roster, and I know that their assault rifle player is Terry Yogurt, I know relatively most of the time they're going to be in safe hands. But yeah, you mentioned this is it's a good opportunity here for Trident to hit the regain button here, because map 1, very, very fast paced. We saw the pace they tried to play within that search, and unfortunately it did come back to bite them, but this is a good opportunity for them to, if they are going to start that reverse sweep, to start it here.
Yeah, the only thing I would say, Major, that worries me a little bit is that I just felt that the game, the map 1 barrage was pretty close, and it was apparent that RAF hadn't warmed up. Like they were pretty much in the lead for say 60% of the game, and even though it was only 10-20 points for the large proportion, Terry Yogurt was a little bit off. You could see Raiden was a little bit off. These are warmed up now going into this Berlin. You know, they're going to be dropping much bigger numbers. They're going to be dying less. So that's the only thing that concerns me if you're a Poseidon fan in any way, or you've got any kind of like any reason that you might support them. That the RAF boys are pretty much fired up and good to go. The only saving grace is, will the boys from Poseidon get good sides, because that will play a role in that first P1, and then how they perform. This could be their map, you know, we don't know. They could play this regularly or practice it regularly, we really don't know. But if I was a betting man, obviously I would probably suggest that a warmed up RAF team are going to do well on this map. They probably enjoy it.
Yeah, we never like to count teams out, and with the Trident roster, we're not too Trident tested in terms of how they're going to like fare up against other teams in the league that we might know. The Berlin hardpoint is... It can be a map, though, that can get out of hand very, very quickly. But if they get a good start and they get the ball rolling, then it's going to be up to RAF to all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So hang on a minute, right? Okay, we might be 60 points down and with the scrap time close to 100, but we need to chalk this hill and win for rotations, because you can really start to snowball some of these hills together on rotation, because the map is a lot bigger. If you manage to get that initial, say, 30-40 seconds and give up 20, but you rotate, the team on the other side that then spawns out has to spend 10-15 seconds just even getting to the hill on Berlin in comparison to some of these other maps that we tend to see.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a legacy. I think we've seen it in St. Petersburg and Modern Warfare. We've seen it in Moscow as well. These quite large maps where they use like all the geography of the map. And you're right in saying that what it tends to do, which you don't see on Bacars and you may not see as much on Tuscan, is you will see the team that's starting to slip behind just literally chalk a hill and try and get that transition and that rotation correct for one of the larger kind of like, you know, when there's a huge geographic jump. But this is all about this start really, and you can already see this race towards this P1 and getting set up as soon as possible. And we can already see the fight going down. Big kill from Rusty on the outset, but Terry Yogurt with an immediate exchange, and he's off the board. And this is the one thing they probably want to keep Terry quiet in this game, or it's going to get real difficult for them really quick.
Yeah, and Mr. Yogg's a man of many talented shots. His stream noises that he tends to make with horror games are a little bit questionable. I don't know if you guys happen to tune into that, but the man's ability on the sticks is by no means easy to be judged on. Shall I say? He's a very, very good player, and you mentioned he hopefully, if he manages to get a good series here, RAF will definitely have the points to show for it. So Trident, they are back in the hill. They've still got 12 seconds, but you can see those blue arrows already. They are rotating straight away. So already RAF kind of putting a lot of eggs in the basket of rotations here, Pablo, over towards P2. And although they're going to be trailing by around 15 points, it's going to be down to Trident to make the break and to at least try and claw back what deficit they could encounter here if they let the RAF lads have a lot of time on this hill, which is looking as though it might be the case.
Yeah, and one thing to consider as well is the Poseidon only committed one player to the new hill. They was Poro was left entirely in charge of being able to maintain a hill that 3 people were about to transition to. So a lot of emphasis put on P2 by RAF ESports. They you know, sent 2 players over while P1 was still rocking, and they got control of that, and that's why they've got a 17-second lead now, is because they committed a little bit more by way of armament over to that P2 hill, and it was a really good bit of play. They were set up, they were already watching players that might push through that kind of central statue area, anyone pushing around the back. So now you're seeing the boys from Trident Poseidon having to like get into this like close quarter arm conflict, and you know who's going to be there to drop everyone. It's going to be Fluffy and Raiden who's going to lap that kind of engagement up. So yeah, great, really sensible and really clever play from the RAF ESports boys.
And you can see JM was the first man to fly through, but Callie's all the way in the back, just locking down that lane. So they are in the hill and soaking up the time. There is a potential pinch coming through, though, for Sam, though, who's coming all the way around the back. If he checks his corner here, Poro is going to be no more, and he manages to take down one. Can he grab the second as well? Ooh. Yes, he can. Sam with a nice 2-piece there onto both Poro and Rusty. He will get taken down and shot in the back, but you've still got those RAF players locking out the spawns in the back. They are really showing the importance of having those players spawn close and having to make Trident at least run over towards the hill for at least 10 seconds while they try and get in. But Fluffy Hippo, another couple of kills for him, and the slaying starting to show now as he manages to heat up a little bit with this automaton, manages to grab another couple of kills, and RAF with a 25-point lead. But that slaying, Pablo, I suppose, is potentially a little bit worrying, at least for the time being, because the RAF lads are really starting to get some momentum as Jay is cutting through players left, right, and centre.
Yeah, one thing I'm really pleased to see, I'll be honest with you, is that in Bocage it's really difficult to see kind of like the smarter players and the smarter teams, but Berlin really does cut the wheat from the chaff. At about 19 seconds, we started to see RAF ESports just rotate over to this kind of like backtracks hill, and they were pushing out from the front, getting the kills, letting the boys from Trident Poseidon get the spawns behind them, and that basically gave them 15 seconds of a hill that RAF had already 45 on, and now they've got control, and it's going to take a big break for them to be able to get back into this. And you think about that map 1 that was so tight, and we're at a 50-second deficit right now, Major. It's wild, but just, you know, keep your eye on how cleverly and how smart RAF ESports play when it comes to these rotations. And Fluffy Hippo absolutely destroying kids.
Yeah, and he is by no means fluffy and cuddly in this Berlin map, because he is carving through players and he's giving them the shabonky left, right, and centre. If you're wondering what that word is, Terry Yogurt, it's your fault. That's where that word's come from. But they're now 50 points to the good, our RAF, and Fluffy Hippo 12 and 4 leading the line. Raiden not too far behind with 11 and 8, but yeah, that's slaying now, and the rotations are really starting to come through now. So Trident Poseidon, they are going to have to really pull their finger out now, because that lead is getting greater and greater. The next hill, though, I suppose in their favour, Pablo, is one that is not easy to hold a lot of time on. They do manage to grab a couple of kills at least, but they've got a little bit of a hill to climb, at least for now, to try and make this one level, because in terms of comparing it to the map 1, this one is starting to be a little bit more one-sided than that Bocage.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for a lot of good teams that maybe don't emphasize, like, they don't put a lot of emphasis on this hill at all. It's a contest hill. If you can get time off it, that's great, but just get set up for the next rotation. You know, be ready, be in that position, you know, try and control the spawns going out after this hill, because this is just a wild hill. It's got too many places that you can get picked from, and no one wants their KD to look terrible, despite how well they're doing in terms of seconds. But yeah, so you can already see the kind of like emphasis RAF put on was just to hold that middle area before the spawns kind of change. They've got those back spawns. This is worrying if you're Trident Poseidon, you're not able to read that play. It is a bit of a concern. Raiden just dropping kids for fun right now on a 5 spree.
Yeah, and when Sam puts up numbers for RAF, they tend to do very, very well, and he is doing exactly that at the moment. 19 and 10, most hill time as well. The man who normally floats around the objective is now starting to chew through Trident Poseidon players all over the map at the moment, as he's now on the 7 streak, and this lead is really starting to get a little bit out of hand now for Trident. It's now pushing that 100-point lead. They are going to get in the hill, and it's a big kill actually from Rusty to at least secure that scrap time, so he stops the bleeding temporarily, but now it's over towards that new important rotation. Sam not able to win the gunfight on that occasion, so they do have a couple of players lurking nearby and the man in the hill, so it looks as though for what seems to be potentially the first time on the map, Pablo, we're going to have to rely potentially on a RAF break here.
Yeah, and again, I was about to criticize Trident Poseidon for only committing 1 player over to that new hill, and they did back him up in the end. He had to get a kill, and then eventually got that support, and that allowed them to kind of like get control of maybe the first 20 seconds of that. But RAF with a really classy break. But again, you know, just because they didn't commit so many people to that hill, this has become a bit of a contest. But again, Trident Poseidon backed up Poro, and they've been able to take the lion's share of the time from this hill, and that's the first time they've done that in this game. And this, you know, potentially puts them within 1 hill rotation of bringing this back. And we see the kill feed going yellow, Major. Are we going to see a potential comeback? It's only 1 hill's difference between them now, so this could be massive. And you can see that player 1 all the way in the back gets dropped. That is a massive kill on Poro from Fluffy Hippo there. Don't think, or might have even been Terry Yoga. I don't think you can underestimate that. But if the boys from Trident Poseidon can, you know, retain, just watch Poro just trying to get back to get those spawns. We're talking about a 50-point game, you know, from what was potentially going to be an 80-point game. This is awesome play from Trident Poseidon.
Yeah, and what appeared to be a start of a hard point where Trident Poseidon were kind of wandering around the map, kind of like an aimless puppy. They are now seemingly coming back into this one. Shout out to Kez for making me say that. That was not a jab at Trident Poseidon at all, I promise. But they do have that rotation again, RAF, so now they're going to be within touching distance of taking this map and this series. Callie is going to get taken down by Poro, currently the best performing. Obviously, we can't see that third player because of the Codcaster issues, but he's the best current performer on the side of Trident Poseidon. And then on the flip side, when you look at RAF, I mean, Jay is just doing bits at the moment. He's going to call a glide bomb in 23 and 11. I mean, Mr. Yogurt is just putting his feet up at the moment, 13 and 19, but with only a few seconds worth of scrap time, this is a big opportunity now for Trident. I definitely feel, potentially, Pablo, that this hill could be make or break for them here. But Callie, that's a big kill to take out Jake out the tower. He's still got Poro nearby. And no, it's actually JM who was the man over there with that glitch. But this is really do or die now for Trident Poseidon, you feel?
Yeah, and very much I think it's die, because I do believe that is Terry and Callie just spawned out towards the back of the warehouse, and that's going to be, you know, potentially a big problem if you're Trident. They've got to break this very difficult hill from the front off a very strong RAF team who can potentially take this round right now. Basically, they're going to have every opportunity, and look at that setup, mate. They are perfectly placed to drop, and we do see the kill feed go the way of RAF Esports. They just look comfortable. They've looked comfortable throughout the whole game, and with 5 seconds remaining, RAF Esports, I think, are going to take this 3-0, Major.
Yeah, and a very, very good performance there from the RAF lads in that map and in the series. 250 to 144 in the end on that Berlin hardpoint. And the lads want no more to do with that one, but a very, very good performance from RAF there, Pablo, in terms of what we expected to see from them. Pretty much they just came through and backed up everything we said, pretty much, didn't they? There was a very good performance from those boys.
And you just look at the stats in Berlin, they aren't like dropping huge numbers, but they just look at the strategy, the early rotations, they get the spawns, they back the, more importantly, they, you know, they try not to let the lone player get in the spawns, get into too many encounters, so they try and get support into them as quickly as possible. So you end up with this position where you have 2 players locking down the next hill, and they're happy to hand over, you know, 15 seconds of old. And you weren't really seeing that from Trident Poseidon until that last rotation, when they just tried to emulate what Callie had been doing the whole game, and take that kind of very, very, you know, back docks area to try and get that P1 hill, and it just never really went their way, and that's how they ended up dropping to 60 seconds. And it's just hats off to RAF for really sensible play.
Yeah, and that is a good marker there for RAF in terms of any teams now that are looking to potentially be up that top end of the table towards the end of the first season here for ACCL. I'll say this is Division 3, so a lot of those Division 3 teams will be looking potentially, if they do see that performance, and go, oh, Okay, they're pretty solid because there wasn't really a point, I would say, in that series apart from maybe the first 40. No, I'd say maybe 75% of the hard point for map 1 when Trident were going level with RAF. They were kind of trading punches, as it were. But after that win on map 1, map 2, and map 3, I don't think you could really look past RAF. It was pretty straightforward and comfortable for those boys, you would say.
Yeah, Bocage is a weird map. Let's be honest. It's not a great, unless you've got a standout side that just slays everyone. It doesn't lend itself to strategy. So if you've got a couple of crack players, your team can often look like they're competing more than they should be because of obviously it's a tight geography. It's all the hills in quite a compact area. But maps like Tuscan S&D and obviously like a particularly Berlin Hardpoint are more classic COD style maps at a more reasonable size where you have to employ strategy, and if you don't do it, the winning team doesn't need to put big numbers up, it just needs to play sensibly, unlike Bocage where it's almost a free-for-all. I mean, unless you've got outstanding players who can just really control hills constantly at that kind of pace, I think it's always going to look competitive. I think that's one factor in the season, is that Division 3 Bocage, potentially Division 4 Bocage, is just going to look super competitive.
Yeah, I think it's one of those where, unless the team's ability is very, very different, I mean, flip a coin really for some of them, the way Bocage can be sometimes, but no flip of a coin in that series. RAF, they looked very, very strong. 3-0 in the end. The RAF boys coming out of Cold War looking decent, coming into Vanguard, they're looking very, very good as well. So, and this is only really the start for us, especially in the ACCL with that new season kicking off. Obviously, with the Codcaster issues, it's not as 100% as it could be, but hopefully you guys enjoyed it still as much as we did there, because it was a very good performance there from RAF. But GG's to both teams there, RAF and Trident Poseidon, for putting that one on display for us. And it will be our one and only series for this evening. So a big shout out to everyone, all the new followers, all you returning goats in the chat, as per usual. You guys never fail to show endless support. So a big thank you to everyone, and a big thank you as well to my partner in crime, Mr. Pablo, for joining me on this journey. Once more, Mr. Pabs, thank you very much.
Not a problem, mate, and thank you for having me, and absolutely hats off for yesterday's performance, man. Doing all the heavy lifting for the CDL boys, so yeah, hats off, and thank you for doing that this evening as well. Always a pleasure, and I look forward to jumping back on with you on the morrow.
Yeah, man. So hopefully, guys, we'll be back, fingers crossed, tomorrow with some more action, and who knows, potentially Pablo might be dabbling in some Halo. Who knows? Maybe that's just a rumor I heard from somewhere, but we never know. But yeah, big thanks once again, guys, to everyone who has tuned in, and if you can, jump on the raid to show Dashi a bit of love. Very, very good player. He's currently, I believe, doing scrims potentially, or GBs, but if you go and show him a bit of love as well, that'll be very much greatly appreciated. But that will be it from myself and Pablo from this ACCL game this evening, and we will catch you guys hopefully tomorrow for some more. So thank you again, guys. We'll catch you then.
Take care, man.